Sweet Pet+Vest+Cute Treasure+Female strong, Qin Xi is a true daughter of a wealthy family who has been wandering outside. When she was 16 years old, she was found back, but she suffered from discrimination everywhere. She's a country girl, so crude and shameful. Everyone abandoned her like a humble shoe, and the fake daughter framed her and plunged her into prison. At the moment of death, she realized. Revive her life and see how she uses her skills learned in prison to face everyone. She is the master of metaphysics. She is the master of Chinese painting. She is the inheritor of ancient martial arts. She is also the successor of the ATG organization. My biological parents and elder brother knelt down to beg for forgiveness. The man walked slowly with his daughter in his arms. Anyone who dares to bully my wife will die. Keywords of the novel. Mengbao attack. Daddy, Big Mommy dropped no pop-ups, Mengbao attack. Daddy, Big Mommy dropped TXT complete collection download, Mengbao attack. Daddy, Big Mommy dropped latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Not serving anymore. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Not serving anymore. The sound of water from the sink was loud, and Qin Xi looked at herself in the mirror. Cold droplets of water meandered down her eyebrows, but her face turned pale due to alcoholism. Under such scrutiny, she slowly put on black-framed glasses, covering her appearance. She just accepted and was reborn. In a moment of confusion, bang bang. Qin Xi, you don't want this wine companion fee anymore, do you? The people outside knocked on the door and shouted loudly. This is the person arranged by her elder brother to humiliate her. The corner of Qin Xi's mouth curved with a mocking curve. Haha. Qin Xi was cold and suddenly pushed open the door. The person was suddenly hit hard in the face by the door, and sat down on the ground. The person exclaimed, ouch. With this sound, everyone in the KTV private room looked towards Qin Xi. Zhang Fu covered his face in excruciating pain and said, you bitch, did you mean it? Believe it or not, I'll kill you now. Who are you going to kill? Qin Xi's cold voice carried a hint of sneer. Zhang Fu felt a little scared when he met the pitch-black eyes of Qin Xi. Stop pretending here. If you don't go and call Qin Xiao over, teach this despicable woman a lesson. If you don't accompany her well, Qin Xiao will know. I'll see how you explain it. Zhang Fu got up from the ground, and the next second, Qin Xi lifted his long leg and kicked him hard in the face. A painful cry echoed throughout the KTV, and everyone was startled by Qin Xi's action. Qin Xi grabbed onto Zhang Fu's collar with a fierce expression in his beautiful eyes. Go back and tell the Qin family that I, Qin Xi, won't serve you anymore, he said. Zhang Fu looked grim and said, are you all foolish? Hurry up and catch this crazy woman. As soon as these words were spoken, those people all came to their senses and approached to catch Qin Creek. The long stick, which Qin Xi decorated directly, seemed to have come alive in Qin Xi's fingers. As soon as one person rushed forward, Qin Xi hit it hard, and blood splattered in an instant, scaring some of the drinkers behind him who were screaming incessantly. Qin Xi's movements were extremely fast, like an elegant cheetah, swiftly weaving through the crowd, hitting everyone hard with a stick. However, in an instant, all those people fell. The drinking companions looked at Qin Creek in terror, as if they had seen a ghost. Qin Xi threw down the bloody stick, and his bones seemed to have been cleared. In her previous life, she lay in bed for 3 full months due to stomach cancer. It feels really good to be able to beat someone down now. At this moment, the door of the KTV was suddenly pushed open by someone. What a fuss. The general manager of KTV stormed in when he heard the commotion. You guys keep it down, Mr. Gu is coming. Mr. Gu. The people in the entire private room gasped for breath in an instant. The Gu family is the leader of the 4 major families, and the only one who can be called Mr. Gu is the current only person in power of the Gu family, Gu Yubai. But what is he doing well at KTV? Everyone couldn't help but ponder the thoughts of this big shot and became anxious. Qin Xi had heard of some names from Gu Yuebai in her previous life. Although she had learned various skills from her masters, they kept warning her not to offend the four major families, especially Gu Yuebai from the Gu family. It was not easy. No matter how simple it is, it has nothing to do with her. She just wants to leave this disgusting place now. Qin Xi pushed open the door and was about to leave. Suddenly, a sound of orderly footsteps came, and a group of people in black transformed into 2 rows, blocking the entrances of each private room. Qin Xi was also stopped by the man in black, and she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. "Let's make way," she said. The man in black seemed completely deaf and unmoved. Behind him, Zhao Qingtian quickly patted his beard and said, "Mr. Gu." The person was stopped by the man in black before leaving the private room, fearing that Zhao Tiancheng might offend Mr. Gu. What a big show. Following the crowd's gaze, Qin Xi saw a tall figure walking from a distance. The man was dressed in a dark coat, exuding a dignified demeanor and standing at a height of 1.88 meters, particularly eye-catching in the crowd. He had broad shoulders, narrow waist, and a loose and crane-like physique. The cold white face adds a touch of coolness under the halo, with a dazzling and dark complexion, like a strong wind in the mountains, giving people an intangible sense of oppression. Everyone held their breath and dared not even take a breath. Qin Xi has seen many people, but her first impression of this person is that it is dangerous. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. How are you? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. How are you? At this moment, Qin Xi felt a sudden thrust behind her. Before she could regain her senses, she uncontrollably collided with the man, instinctively grabbing the corner of his clothes and balancing her body. A cold and piercing breath instantly filled the nose. Qin Xi instinctively looked up and suddenly met the pitch-black night-like eyes. The man lowered his eyes with respect, and his eyes looked at her coldly. At this moment, everyone gasped for breath. I saw the man with low eyebrow and eye pressure, and a hint of coldness and disgust in his pupils. He looked at the woman in front of him, who was wearing revealing clothes. She wore a pair of black-framed glasses on her face, which looked particularly old-fashioned. She was wrapped in a cheap tight-fitting dress, with a strong smell of alcohol on her body. It was hard not to imagine her profession when she appeared in such a place again. Over the years, there have been many women who have devoted themselves to him. But it's the first time I've seen someone with such clumsy methods. Let go. That beautiful voice carries a hint of coldness. Qin Xi took a cold breath and was certain that someone had intentionally pushed her just now, wanting her to offend Gu Yuebai. She immediately released her hand and said, "Mr. Gu, I didn't mean to do it. Someone pushed me from behind just now." His cold eyebrows and eyes were not mixed with any emotions, as if her explanation was irrelevant. The subordinate next to him quickly stepped forward and directly imprisoned Qin Xi. "Mr. Gu, we will deal with this woman now. After speaking, we need to drag Qin Creek away." Qin Xi did not intend to offend Gu Yuebai, but this way of suppressing the prisoners reminded her of her days in prison. She mobilized her internal strength and shook open the subordinate's hand, but her glasses were also slightly shaken off by this force and flew down uncontrollably. The glasses fell to the ground with a thud, and the clean apricot eyes were exposed to the air. She said coldly, "I can leave by myself." Gu Yu's white and pitch-black eyes reflected the light brown eyes of a woman. An inexplicable sense of familiarity floated up to my chest. Just as his subordinates were about to take Qin Xi away, his thin lips moved and he said, "Wait a minute." The subordinates immediately stopped their steps. Gu Chaobai looked at Qin Xi's slender and tall back, and his familiarity became even stronger. His Adam's apple rolled lightly, and his voice was a bit hoarse. "Turn around," he said. Qin Xi is slightly paused. For some reason, these 3 words made her feel familiar, as if she had heard them somewhere before. just as she was about to turn around. "Mr. Gu, I've found the trace of Mississippi," one person walked quickly. Gu raised his eyebrows and said, "Lead the way." Concise two-word landing. The visitor quickly took care of Guyu's vaginal discharge. A group of people, led by Guyu, left swiftly and swiftly. In such a moment, it seemed as if the entire corridor was empty. Qin Xi's heart suddenly beat a little faster. Who was Guyu and why his voice sounded familiar to her, but she couldn't remember it. Qin Xi shook his head and let it go. "Let's change our clothes first." Qin Xi was extremely disgusted by this outfit. In order to humiliate her, the Qin family deliberately made her dress up like this to accompany the wine. It was only when they remembered Guyu that they looked at him, as if looking at another unscrupulous woman. Now she just wants to quickly change this outfit. In the changing room, Qin Xi took off his tight and revealing clothes, changed into a simple white shirt and jeans, and was about to throw the changed clothes into the trash. There was a sound behind him, and Qin Xi's nerves tensed instantly. Someone. Qin Xi's gaze turned coldly towards the wardrobe, and she slowed down and arrived in front of it. Qin Xi suddenly opened the door and said, "Come out and die." The character, state, has not yet fallen. Qin Xi faced a pair of big black grape-like eyes. The long and thick curled eyelashes blinked and blinked like a small brush. Her small face was carved with powder and jade, with two cute little tugs tied to her head. Perhaps afraid, she shrank into the wardrobe, like a trembling little beast. Qin Xi stood in place, feeling somewhat lost, with mist rising in his eyes. She also had a child before. Memory goes back to that time, when she suffered humiliation and unbearable pain from the Qin family. She got drunk late at night, walked into the wrong hotel room, and spent the night lingering with a man. She only realized she was pregnant after 5 or 6 months in prison. Later, on the day she gave birth to a child in prison, she was told by a doctor that her child had died in the womb due to the hardships in prison. It is precisely because of this that every time she sees a child, she instinctively hates not taking good care of her child. But now when she sees this child, she doesn't have any resistance. Qin Xi's voice softened and he said, "Child, why are you in here? Where are your parents?" The little girl blinked her eyes and remained silent. Qin Xi thought she was afraid, so she crouched down and smiled, "Child, don't be afraid. Tell me where my parents are. I'll take you home." The little girl frowned upon hearing her return home and quickly shook her head. Qin Xi was stunned. "I felt a bit at a loss for a moment. She doesn't get along well with children and really doesn't know how to get along." At this moment, the little girl suddenly opened her hands and made a hug mouth shape towards her. Qin Xi was stunned, but his heart was a bit more joyful. "Are you letting Auntie hug you?" The little girl nodded earnestly. Qin Xi's heart pounded, and she slowly extended her hands to embrace the little girl. Her arm strength was not too strong, afraid of hurting her. Qin Xi picked her up from the cabinet. The little one was fragrant and soft, and her heart was about to melt. "It's really cute. What's your name?" The little girl held Qin Xi's hand and wrote the words "sweet" on it stroke by stroke. Qin Xi finally understood that the little girl in front of him couldn't speak. Her nose was inexplicably sour. "So sweet little friend, can Auntie take you out first?" Tian blinked her big eyes and nodded without any suspicion. Qin Xi took her hand and prepared to take her to the front desk to find her parents. The child's palm was very hot, and Qin Xi held it tightly, as if afraid of her running away. If her child grows up, she might also be as sweet as Tian, right? Qin Xi walked to the lobby with Tian and was about to ask the front desk when suddenly a group of people in black rushed towards Qin Xi, surrounding her in groups. Qin Xi felt the child in his hand, visibly trembling and afraid. She couldn't help but frown and looked at the group of people with caution. "Gu Tian, come here." A deep and clear male voice came coldly. Sweetheart immediately hugged Qin Xi's thigh tightly, with a posture of refusing to let go even in death. Qin Xi turned around and met Gu Yuebai's cold and terrifying eyes. Gu Yuebai saw Qin Xi's face and couldn't help but furrow his brows even tighter. Why are you? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Termination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Termination. Qin Xi also wants to ask, why are you? But obviously, the man in front of me is a sweet understanding, and it should still be a father-daughter relationship. And the assistant next to Gu Yuebai was also somewhat surprised. After all these years, no one wanted to touch Mississippi. Even Mrs.'s biological mother couldn't touch a finger of Mississippi. Except for Mr. Gu, everyone else couldn't touch her, let alone hold a stranger so intimately. The assistant couldn't help but say in a soft voice, "Miss, Mr. Gu has come to pick you up and go home." Sweetly shook her head with a determined expression. Gu Yuebai's face darkened a bit. "Come here, Gu Tian, I'll count 3 times. That cold voice, full of authority. Not to mention sweetness, even Qin Xi felt scared when she heard it. She couldn't help but raise her voice and say, "Mr. Gu, this is your daughter, not your prisoner." This cold and aloof sentence made everyone gasp for breath. Are there really people in this world who are not afraid of death who dare to speak to Mr. Gu like this? Gu Yu's eyebrows furrowed even deeper. Qin Xi ignored the burning gaze of the man behind him and leaned down. "Sweetheart, is that your father?" Tian met Qin Xi's gentle eyes and nodded candidly. Qin Xi rubbed her little head with his big hand and said, "It's already very late. Sweet should go home. How about coming out again next time?" Sweetly shook her head, tears appeared in her eyes, and her eyes were red, looking somewhat pitiful. Qin Xi felt an inexplicable pain in her heart, but after all, it was not her child. She said, "Sweetheart, next time you want to come out and play, you can tell your parents not to sneak out on your own and make them worried. How about Sweetheart coming out and playing with her aunt again next time?" Sweetly looking at Qin Xi's sincere eyes, she hesitated for a while before extending her little finger. Qin Xi smiled and hooked her little finger. Qin Xi said, "That's the deal." Nod sweetly and obediently. Qin Xi rubbed her head and then led Tian to Gu Yuebai's side. Qin Xi met Gu Yuebai's eyes and said, "Mr. Gu, the child needs to be watched carefully. It's lucky to be able to retrieve it this time. It won't be that easy next time. What kind of thing are you, daring to talk to Mr. Gu like this?" The assistant stepped forward indignantly. Gu Yuebai stopped the assistant and moved his thin lips, "Thank you." Qin Xi pursed his lips into a line and lowered his head to take a sweet look. Sweetly smiled, and Qin Xi silently said, "Goodbye," with his mouth. Sweetly nodded, and Qin Xi walked away in a meteor-like manner. The assistant looked at Qin Xi's receding figure and said, "Mr. Gu, should we investigate this woman? Today is quite a coincidence. First, let's throw ourselves into the embrace. Later, I found the young lady again. Still coaxing the young lady so well. This woman must have ulterior motives." Gu Yu's eyebrows and eyes were lowered, and he said coldly, "No need, prepare the car and go back to the old house." Not long after Qin Xi left Shenghua KTV, a sudden ringing bell rang. Qin Xi's nerves tensed instantly. She took out her phone and looked at the display screen, which prominently displayed the word "home." This word is too eye-catching. The glaring Qin Xi couldn't help but sneer. How can the Qin family be considered a family? Hell is it? She was originally a true daughter left behind by the Qin family, but she was taken back when she was 16 years old, but she never enjoyed the treatment of a true daughter. All of this stems from that woman, Qin Xi, the heavenly daughter of the Qin family. Qin Xi deprived her of all her happiness and money, and even deliberately rolled down the stairs, falsely claiming that she was the one who pushed her. From then on, the people of the Qin family despised her, a daughter from the countryside, even more deeply. Not only did she personally send her to prison, but after being released, she became a drinking companion. It's ridiculous to this day. Even though I learned many skills in prison in my past life, I still feel inferior, cowardly, and lacking love. I have never realized the true face of the White Lotus, and I have been obedient to the Qin family. I just want to pray for that meager love. What is the result? She drank heavily for a long time and died on a cold hospital bed, and the Qin family didn't give her a single glance. At the moment of death, she realized. In her eyes, the Qin family is nothing but dog poop. Qin Xi changed the note without hesitation and answered the phone calmly. The deep male voice was filled with coldness. Qin Xi, listen to Zhao Qingtian say, did you beat someone in KTV? This voice is Qin Mo's hen, the elder brother of the Qin family. She was also one of the main culprits who arranged for her to accompany the drinks. Qin Xi sneered, so what? After a moment of silence, the other end said, it seems like it's been too long since I taught you a lesson. You're itching. Now get back to the Qin family. Ashu's sick, come back and apologize to her. Qin Xi tugged her lower lip. In her previous life, she would still be sad, feeling that the Qin family was biased. Now, she only finds it ridiculous. Apologizing is impossible. Coincidentally, I also have something to say to you. Without waiting for a response from that side, Qin Xi hung up the phone, called a car, and reported the address of the Qin family. When she arrived at the gate of the Qin family, the nanny who opened the door for her immediately pulled down her face, her eyes filled with disgust and disgust. Qin Xi has long been accustomed to this gaze. Every time she comes home, she is baptized by this kind of gaze. Everyone in the Qin family thinks that Qin Xi is the one who occupies the magpie's nest. If it weren't for the old man of the Qin family's insistence on bringing Qin Xi back to the Qin family before his death, the Qin family would probably only give Qin Xi a maintenance fee and send her away. Now thinking about it, it's better to only give one child support, at least not to die so tragically in the previous life. In this life, she doesn't want to have any further involvement with this family. Qin Xi walked to the living room and a piercing voice rang out, Qin Xi, do you still have the face to come back? Qin Xi looked up and saw Qin Moyu, the second brother of the Qin family, with a beautiful and evil face filled with a cold sneer. Do you know that Xiao Shu is suffering from depression again? Qin Xi raised his eyebrows. It's all because of you. Qin's mother hissed and rushed forward exhausted. If it weren't for Qin Mo's deep obstruction of Qin Mu, Qin Xi had no doubt that Qin Mu would rush forward and strangle her. Qin's mother looked full of anger and said, it's all you who caused Xiao Shu to suffer from depression. Why don't you die? Why isn't Xiao Shu my biological daughter? The voice of resentment was heard countless times by Qin Xi in his previous life. She used to still feel pain and sadness. But not now. She will no longer beg to please the Qin family by wagging her tail, nor does she want to end up dying in a hospital bed for the rest of her life. Qin Xi raised his eyes indifferently, his pitch-black eyes sweeping over the crowd and sneering, since you hate me so much, don't contact me in the future. After all, you kicked me out of the Qin family 5 years ago, and I'm no longer a member of the Qin family. Qin Xi, do you think this trick is useful for us? Qin Moyu sneered coldly, do you think we will soften our hearts and let you go? You made Xiao Shu unable to dance and made her suffer from severe depression. Why are you so happy? Happy, this word is truly a great irony. Qin Xi sneered, happy. It means that since the age of 16, you have been telling me every day that Qin Shu is the eldest lady of the Qin family, and I am just a wild girl from the countryside, treated equally in terms of clothing, food, housing, and transportation. Or is it that during the fire, Qin Shu and I were in the same room, and your whole family rushed towards Qin Shu, only to forget me in the fire, leaving a scar on my calf to this day? The Qin family's face turned black. Qin's father slammed the table and said, Qin Xi, don't use past events to fool us. Xiao Shu was caused by you. I'll give you two choices now. Either get out of the Qin family, don't come back in this life, or kneel down and apologize now to make Xiao Shu happy. Qin Mo said coldly, Qin Xi, without the Qin family, people like you can only live in Beijing for 3 months. I advise you to apologize to Xiao Shu obediently. Qin Xi looked at this group of people. The heart is already numb and painless. She used to treat them as family, after all, at a certain moment when they slipped out of their nails, it made her grateful. She even hoped that one day the Qin family would treat her like they would treat Qin Shu. Later on, she realized that their kindness was not 1% of what they treated Qin Shu. This home is a quagmire. She can only walk out on her own. Qin Xi suppressed the surging emotions in his eyes and said firmly, from today on, I Qin Xi will not step into your Qin family, and I have nothing to do with your family anymore. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Tutor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Tutor. Qin Moyu clapped his palms and sneered, okay, Qin Xi, you must keep your promises. Don't come back begging us on your knees in the future. Qin's mother covered her chest and gritted her teeth, Qin Xi, it's good for you to leave. From now on, we only have Qin Shu as our daughter in the Qin family. Qin Xi turned around and left, she no longer wanted to talk nonsense to this group of people. Qin Xi, don't regret it, Qin Mo whispered in a deep, cold voice. Qin Xi's pace towards the gate paused slightly. Her thin lips flashed a cold smile, regretful. Regretting not cutting off the relationship earlier is what it is. Qin Xi walked out of the Qin family at a fast pace, until he could no longer see the front door of the Qin family. It was then that Qin Xi felt the knot in his chest suddenly dissipate. After so many years, she has finally achieved true freedom. Qin Xi took out her phone and expressionlessly blocked all the contact information of the Qin family. She turned off her phone and took it back into her pocket. Suddenly, a gust of strong wind blew by, and Qin Xi felt his eyes being forced to open by the wind. Qin Xi regained his senses and more than 10 black cars parked neatly in front of Qin Xi. I saw a tall figure walking not far away. The young man was wearing an old-fashioned Zhongshan suit, with an outstanding temperament. Under his golden-framed eyes, the bottom of his eyes was like a venomous snake, and behind him were dozens of people. Qin Xi couldn't help but be a little wary. The young man quickly approached and suddenly half knelt down, congratulations to the master on his release from prison. My name is Qingluan, and I am one of the subordinates of the old master. I'm sorry, the master. After the old master went missing, we knew nothing about your news, and we only found you now. The subordinates are late, please forgive me. Master, forgive me. The resounding and powerful voice echoed continuously. Qin Xi suddenly remembered that this scene had also happened in the previous generation. During her 5 years in prison, she had a total of 6 masters. Third Master Liangmu, an internationally renowned organization and the head of ATG Hall, controls 30% of the world's underground transactions. A year ago, Master San suddenly evaporated from the human world while in prison, and Qin Xi's killing skills and multiple languages he has learned are all self-taught by his father. However, before disappearing, Master San had already entrusted her with full control of the ATG organization. She helped manage the organization in prison for a year, but never had actual contact with ATG members. After being released from prison in her previous life, she did not want to cause trouble for the Qin family and only wanted a stable life, so she refused to take on the position of ATG Hall Master. Now thinking about it, although Third Master was the most silent, he was also extremely kind to her. When Sixth Master tormented her to practice martial arts, he was always the first to prescribe medicine to her. In her previous life, she could not be kept by those who loved her, and those who abandoned her like wearing humble shoes regarded her as a treasure. It's okay, come with me in the future and work diligently. How did my master treat you? and the same goes for me. Now go to headquarters immediately, I want to understand everything about ATG this year. Yes. Qingluan stood up and said. Qin Xi walked with great strides, and Qingluan opened the car door for her. She crawled into the car and said, "My master has been missing for a year. We will mobilize all members of ATG to find information. Live to see people, die to see corpses." That voice was particularly powerful, and her beautiful eyes remained calm and majestic. Everyone couldn't help but hold their breath and concentrate. The car door closed and the car flew away. The members of ATG knelt down one after another, their voices neat and powerful, farewell to the master. Upon arriving at the ATG headquarters, Qin Xi inspected and confirmed that there were no issues with the operation. Suddenly, Qingluan spoke up, "Master, in fact, our organization has been investigating the news of the disappearance of the old master, but the source of the investigation has been interrupted in one place." Qin Xi was surprised and raised his eyebrows. "Where is it?" Qingluan whispered, "Gu family." "The Gu family from the four major families." Qin Xi raised his eyebrows. Qingluan whispered, "Yes, the night before the disappearance of the old master, the Gu family once sent a car to the prison. Within 3 hours of leaving, the old master disappeared. So you suspect that someone from the Gu family took away the old master?" Qin Xi's eyebrows and eyes became a bit deeper. Qingluan. "Yes. If it involves the Gu family, I'm afraid this matter won't be that simple." Qin Xi took a deep breath and said, "Think of a way for me to enter the Gu family in good faith. I will personally investigate the truth." The other person immediately respectfully said, "Yes. ATG is truly an internationally renowned mysterious organization." The next day, Qingluan told Qin Xi that he had helped her find a way to enter the Gu family. Qin Xi took Qingluan's address and went outside the Gu family door. It is said that the Gu family is wealthy, and Qin Xi has seen it. Looking around, there is no end to it. The Suzhou garden decorations used everywhere are elegant and peaceful. If a wealthy person were to engage in European style, they could at most be considered wealthy, but being able to afford such a large Chinese garden courtyard would undoubtedly be like burning paper, and it is not an exaggeration to step on the mud. Perhaps Qingluan arranged it properly. As soon as Qin Xi arrived at the Gu family, someone led him all the way into the house and arrived at the entrance. A middle-aged woman stood at the entrance waiting with a friendly expression. "Are you the Shaoqin teacher who applied for the job?" "I am the butler of the Gu family, Chen Jin Man. Just call me Aunt Chen." "Teacher Shaoqin." Qingluan's method of letting him enter the Gu family is really unique. She came to teach as the head of the family. "Miss, it's in the room now. Miss Meng will come from home later to interview Teacher Shaoqin." "Teacher Shaoqin, please wait here first," Aunt Chen said with a smile. "Qin Xi." "Miss Meng." Aunt Chen lowered her eyes slightly and said, "It's Mr. Gu's fiancée A.E. and also Mrs. Mother." Mr. Gu. Qin Xi suddenly felt like her brain had been stabbed, and then she realized that if she came to the Gu family, wouldn't the child she was going to teach be sweet? Qin Xi's heart suddenly started beating a bit faster. For some reason, she still quite likes that sweet little girl. Qin Xi couldn't help but say, "Can I meet a student first?" "Sorry, Miss Qin, you need to pass the assessment before you can meet Miss, which is also to ensure Mrs.'s safety." Aunt Chen's words were very sincere. Qin Xi understands that children from wealthy families face much more danger than those from ordinary families. Understanding. Just then, a voice suddenly sounded, "Mr. Gu, are you back?" Qin Xi followed the sound and saw a tall figure walking against the light. The cold and stern face emerged from the light and shadow, gradually becoming clear. At the moment when he saw Qin Xi, his eyebrows and eyes were clearly stunned. Aunt Chen was surprised and said, "Mr. Gu, why did you come back so early today?" Gu Yuebai's gaze fell on Qin Xi, and when Aunt Chen saw this, she immediately said, "Mr. Gu, this is the tutor who came to apply today." Gu Yuebai raised his eyebrows and said, "A private tutor." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Is her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 is her. Gu Yuebai's gaze swept up and down. Qin Xi had a beautiful appearance. Today, he didn't wear any exposed clothes, but instead wore a simple grey camisole with a white cardigan over it, accompanied by slightly flared jeans. His skin was as white as snow, and there was no heavy makeup on his face. He was clear and clean, especially his eyes, which were as clear as morning mist, clean and clear. It seems that it wasn't her who was all drunk at KTV that day. "Please leave, lady." Gu Yuebai coldly withdrew his gaze and took off his tall suit. Aunt Chen next to her was very surprised, not sure how Qin Xi had offended Mr. Gu. She quickly stepped forward to take his clothes. Qin Xi took a step forward and blocked Gu Yuebai's way. Gu Yuebai's cold and suppressed eyebrows and eyes looked at her quietly. Qin Xi said, "Mr. Gu, why judge people by their appearance? Don't even give them a chance. Do you think I would hand over my daughter to a woman wandering in a romantic setting?" Gu Yuebai raised his eyebrows, raised a glass of water, took a sip, and his indifferent gaze seemed to be questioning. Qin Xi smiled calmly and said, "Mr. Gu, do you have a bit of a stereotype? Being around Shenghua doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Besides, wasn't Mr. Gu also in Shenghua yesterday? Does this also mean that Mr. Gu is not a serious person?" The air instantly solidified, and the pitch-black eyes fell on her face. The two of them intertwined their gaze, and the air pressure was low. Aunt Chen, who has been with Mr. Gu for so many years, was intimidated by the atmosphere and instinctively avoided it a bit. "I'm looking for my daughter, what is this young lady for?" Gu Yu's thin lips suddenly added a hint of coldness. Qin Xi sighed and said, I said I used to be forced and helpless, do you believe me? Mr. Gu, I'm sure I'm also in a hurry to find a tutor. Why don't you let me give it a try? I think I can handle this job." After a long silence, Aunt Chen thought that the next second Mr. Gu would ask her to invite Miss Qin out. The next second, Gu Yuebai whispered, "Please come over, Mississippi." Aunt Chen looked up at Gu Yuebai in surprise and quickly said, "Yes, yes." After speaking, Aunt Chen went to the room and invited Gu Tian. At once, Qin Xi and Gu Yuebai were the only two people left in the huge living room. Gu Yuebai stood in front of the French window. His light white shirt depicted his shoulder line, which was broad and thin. The light outside fell on him, making him dignified and calm. He seemed to have no desire to talk to her more. Coincidentally, there is no Qin River either. Soon, Tian was taken out by Aunt Chen. "Miss, this is the new teacher Xiaoqin." Aunt Chen deliberately slowed down her voice, afraid that this unfamiliar teacher would scare Mississippi. Tian looked up and saw Qin Xi slowly turn around and greet Gu Tian. Tian's eyes suddenly lit up, and the next second, she ran quickly towards Qin Xi. Aunt Chen couldn't even catch it in time, and she saw that Tian had already arrived at Qin Xi, stretching out her hands with a pleading expression. Aunt Chen was instantly shocked in the same place. After so many years, Miss, besides Mr. Gu, no one would allow anyone to be close to her. Qin Xi lowered his body and gently hugged Tian. "Did you behave well today?" Sweetly nodding heavily. "You're really good." Qin Xi smiled and had a genuine liking for this child. However, she didn't forget the purpose of her visit. She had to move into the Gu family and inquire about news about Third Master. Gu Chaobai looked at Tian's proactive approach to Qin Xi, and indeed everything from yesterday was not a coincidence. Tian genuinely likes this woman. Tian is physically weak and cannot go out frequently. If Tian is willing to listen to her and stay at home obediently, then this Qin Xi has employment value. Gu Yuebai rubbed his eyebrows and eyes, and said in a deep voice, "What's your name?" Ken asked her name, and this matter can be considered a success. Qin Xi stood up and said with a smile, "Hello Mr. Gu, my name is Qin Xi." Gu Yuebai nodded and said indifferently, "What will happen?" Traditional Chinese painting, 6 languages including English, French. "Let's make a price," Gu Yuebai interrupted her. Qin Xi choked up. Obviously Gu Yuebai was not interested in these things. He probably wanted someone who could accompany Gu Tian, and as for being able to teach Gu Tian things, it was all incidental. But it's strange that he already has children with someone, can't he let his mother accompany him? Qin Xi didn't ask many questions, but said, "Mr. Gu, let's calculate according to the market price." Gu Yuebai said calmly, "Then the monthly salary is 150,000 yuan, with 6 insurances and 2 benefits. The only requirement is that you need to arrive at 8:30 am on time and leave at 10 p.m. on time, without staying." This sentence is very clever as it cannot linger. Does he think she deliberately came to approach him? "Okay," Qin Xi said with a smile on his face but not on his flesh, "Miss Meng is here." Aunt Chen suddenly spoke on the side. Qin Xi suddenly remembered that Miss Meng before Aunt Chen was Gu Yuebai's fiancée A.E., and she instinctively looked over. Meng Jingxue changed her shoes and saw Gu Yuebai at first glance. Her voice was gentle, "Yuebai." Gu Yuebai coldly nodded and said, "There's something else to do with the company. I'll leave first. This is the new teacher. Do you have any instructions? Tell her now." Meng Jingxue, using the excuse of finding a teacher for Gu Tian, worked hard to get Gu Yuebai to come back from the company just to meet him. As a result, she arrived and the people were selected, and he was also leaving. Meng Jingxue couldn't help feeling a little resentful and angry in her heart, but she couldn't express herself in front of Gu Yuebai anymore. She turned her head and looked coldly at the new teacher. At this moment, Qin Xi looked up, and the two of them suddenly caught their eyes off guard. Ben still looked angry at Meng Jingxue. At the moment he saw Qin Xi's face clearly, he froze in place, and the blood in his bones seemed to be cold. It's her. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Her Premeditation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Her premeditation. Sweat beads kept popping up on her forehead, and she never expected to see her one day. Especially when I saw this woman at the Qin family. After Gu Yuebai left, Chen Jinman no longer concealed himself and deliberately separated him. She did not want to keep the calamity of Qin Xi in the Qin family. Her things must never be remembered by outsiders. "Aunt Chen, take Tian upstairs to rest. This child hasn't taken a nap yet today." Chen Jinman nodded and said, "Okay, Miss Meng, Miss Qin." Aunt Chen hesitated to speak. She didn't know much about Meng Jingxue, but Gu Tian didn't get close to her and couldn't help but let her speculate about Meng Jingxue. "I have a few questions to ask Miss Qin. After all, not everyone can stay at the Gu family." Miss Qin bit her 3 words very hard, and the expression on her face made Qin Xi a bit confused. She doesn't know her, she has never even met her. Even in her previous life, she had no impression of Miss Meng, who was dressed elegantly and had a beautiful and delicate face. But her hostility is very obvious. Is it difficult for Meng Jingxue to think that she came into the Gu family to get close to Gu Yuebai, and she guessed that Qin Xi also had feelings for Gu Yuebai? Obviously, only this logic currently makes sense. "Okay, sweetness, can we go up and take a nap with Aunt Chen?" Gu Tian, who had been snuggling in Qin Xi's arms all along, was somewhat unwilling, and her meaty little hand tightly grabbed Qin Xi's clothes. Shaking his head, his big eyeballs blinked. Aunt Chen was very helpless. It was the first time that Gu Tian was so close to someone, and even Gu Yuebai was not so clingy. This made Aunt Chen feel a bit embarrassed and turned to look at Meng Jingxue. Sweetheart, don't be stubborn. Mom has something to say to this sister. Sweetheart, will you go and sleep well first? Meng Jingxue walked towards Gu Tian, crouched down and raised her hand to touch her head, with a gentle tone. If it weren't for Qin Xi's disgust at Meng Jingshue's fleeting passing, she would truly feel from the bottom of her heart that Gu Tian is very happy. Sweet and obedient. It seemed that Gu Tian was indifferent, and Meng Jingxue gradually became angry, with a hint of ferocity in her tone. This action prompted both people present to speak up and stop it. Miss Meng. Chen Jinman seemed to be surprised, stunned for a moment, and then realized that he seemed to have crossed the line and was not speaking wisely. But Qin Xi doesn't have such a good temper. I don't know why she really likes the child in front of her. The hand that held her tightly in her arms gently patted her back to soothe her. Isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to treat a child like this? Sweet and young, why bother arguing with a child like this? Qin Xi's eyebrows and eyes were tinged with a hint of indifference, and this impression was extremely poor. And Meng Jingxue across from her was obviously the same. She stood up and attached herself from a high position to look at Qin Creek. This person she is familiar with but unfamiliar with. Long silence. Your name is Qin Xi, right? Meng Jingxue didn't know how long it took before she spoke such a sentence. Although puzzled, Qin Xi politely responded. I think I need to introduce myself. Mr. Gu has a general understanding of my information, but Miss Meng probably doesn't know anything about me. Knowing nothing perhaps. Meng Jingshue's emotions were complex in her eyes, and she sneered. So let's pick the key point. Yu Bai may not have thought too much about his rush, and I have always been responsible for a sweet life. I can't rest assured that others will take over. Miss Meng is worried that Tian is fortunate to have such a good mother like you. The smell of gunpowder between the two couldn't help but be strong, and Gu Tian, who had been lying in Qin Xi's arms, slowly fell asleep. After all, I am still a child and my health is not good. It is not surprising for Qin Xi to sleep in. Hold her carefully and hand it to Chen Jinman. Aunt Chen, please take Tian to take a nap. This child doesn't seem to have slept well last night. Chen Jinman nodded and left the living room holding Gu Tian. Before leaving, he glanced at Qin Xi and Meng Jingxue with a worried expression. Feeling uneasy inside, for some reason she always felt that Meng Jingxue had a great hostility towards Qin Xi. But from a different perspective, Miss Meng seems to have been like this all along. Consider all women as their imaginary enemies. My self-introduction is roughly like this. What other questions does Miss Meng have? Meng Jingxue looked at the Qin River in front of her. She is confident and dignified yet very elegant, unlike a person who has been imprisoned before. But even so, she didn't want the woman in front of her to wander around in front of her every day. I heard you've been to jail before. Speaking of this, Qin Xi's body stiffened. It shouldn't be, how could Meng Jingxue know about this matter? Besides, Qingluan said he had dealt with this matter. She investigated her. Well, how did Miss Meng know? Are you very interested in me? Clearly, Meng Jingxue had a chest ring and a disdainful expression on her face. You go, maybe you know the 6 languages and have an excellent resume, but I'm sorry, Miss Qin. I don't want my daughter to have too much contact with someone who has been in prison since childhood. After finishing speaking, Meng Jingxue will turn around and leave. Qin Xi became anxious and quickly stopped in front of her, staring at her intently. Miss Meng, why not give it a chance? The news of Master San is from the Gu family, and no matter what, she cannot just return without success. If it really doesn't work out today, the hope of staying at the Gu family like this in the future will be even more slim. Plus, with that meatball, I don't know why she loves her very much. She has a reason to stay at the Gu family. Since Mr. Gu still gave me a chance, Miss Meng, why did you target me like this? The displeasure on Meng Jingshue's face upon hearing Gu Yuebai's name was even more evident. Just let you go, there's so much nonsense. If you don't leave, don't force me to call the security guard to take you away. Just as the two of them were deadlocked, Gu Yuebai's assistant Xiao Wang returned out of place. Miss Qin, this is what Mr. Gu asked me to give you. He said there is 45,000 yuan in it, which is your 3-month salary. Xiao Wang handed Qin Xi a bank card, which made Meng Jingshue's face even worse. Just as I was about to say something, I received a call from Gu Yuebai. In an instant, Meng Jingshue's face improved a lot and she happily answered the phone. Yuebai, why are you? Qin Xi is what I want to stay behind, you don't have to intervene in this matter. Before Meng Jingshue could finish speaking, Gu Yuebai had already hung up the phone. This made Meng Jingshue even more displeased, giving Qin Xi a fierce glare before leaving the Gu family. At this moment, Gu Yuebai from the Gu group was observing Qin Xi's every move through the surveillance on the screen. This woman is definitely not simple. First, that night at the bar, she threw herself into the embrace. Later, she happened to find her precious daughter Gu Tian. And now, she comes to herself and says she wants to be a private tutor. All of this is too coincidental. He is certain that she must have premeditated intentions. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Qingluan Disappearance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Qingluan Disappearance. Mr. Gu, the personal information of Miss Qin Xi is all here, but there is no abnormality. The assistant placed a document in front of Gu Yuebai and stood aside to start reporting. Qin Xi is the daughter of the Qin family who has been living away from home. This incident caused quite a stir earlier, and you should have heard of it a bit. Afterwards, she was sent to prison by the Qin family for taking action on her sister, Qin Xu, who is now the most beloved daughter of the Qin family. She had been imprisoned before, but there was no other information besides that. Gu Yuebai furrowed his eyebrows. Is that all? Yes sir, it seems that Miss Qin Xi's information has been heavily protected by a certain organization. Upon hearing this, Gu Yuebai's lips curved into a smile. Is it a key protected area for certain forces? That's really interesting. He suddenly had an idea about this Qin Xi. Go, send someone to keep an eye on her 24 hours a day. Also, ensure the safety of the young lady and never let her suffer any harm. If Qin Xi is really not simple, then he will definitely make her regret entering the Gu family. After leaving the Gu family that day, Qin Xi went to the ATG headquarters. But Qingluan doesn't seem to be at the base. Master, why did you come over today? But something went wrong. Most people at ATG have already met this new church leader. Seeing her suddenly appear at the headquarters is somewhat unsettling, as ATG has been disappearing for a long time since the old master disappeared. Qingluan, let him come and see me. Qin Xi sat on a chair, holding a stack of information from the Gu family over the years. This also includes what the Gu family did when they went to prison. But obviously, there is no important information. Gu Jia, as the master said, is indeed a formidable enemy that is not easy to provoke. It seems like it will take some time to gather favorable information from the Gu family. Report to the master, Lord Qingluan is not here. It has been 2 days without any news, and we cannot contact him either. Upon hearing Qingluan's disappearance, Qin Xi didn't know why he felt a bad premonition in his heart. Is it also because of the Gu family? After thinking that the master had met the Gu family for the last time, his heart sank even more. She swore that no matter what, she must know the truth of the matter. When did it happen? Qin Xi's gaze couldn't help but show a hint of concern. When she was in prison, the master talked to her more than once about every veteran of ATG. And Qingluan is a subordinate highly valued by his master. Qin Xi, who was deeply influenced by Qin Xi, also had the same affection for Qingluan as his master. According to Mr. Red Carp, it was the day you entered the Gu family. Gu family, it's Gu family again. This made Qin Xi couldn't help but guess how mysterious the Gu family was. She had also heard of the name Red Carp from her master, and it seemed that it was specifically responsible for intelligence. He Qingluan seems to be good brothers who go through life and death. Master, my subordinate Red Carp has seen the master before. I'm sorry, I didn't come over immediately to handle some matters before. A graceful man holding a folding fan looks very artistic. If it weren't for this being at ATG headquarters, it's really hard to believe that the person in front of me would be a member of a mysterious organization. Do you have any clues about Qingluan's disappearance? The Red Carp handed a USB flash drive to Qin Xi. This is the video we received recently. We have checked the video and it is not a composite. Clicking on the video file, Qingluan is completely exhausted. The wounds on his body were shocking, and his hands and feet were bound by iron chains. Qin Xi couldn't help but be taken aback. She absolutely believed in Qingluan's strength. Even if they are not as good as the other party, they should not be captured alive. Unless there is another hidden truth about this matter. Whether you say it or not, who is the person behind you? If you don't want to suffer, just admit it honestly. Pooh, there's no one behind me. If you want to kill me, kill me. There's so much nonsense. Pop. Qingluan spat at the man, and the rebellious expression on his face made him even more unhappy. Pick up the whip soaked in salt water and whip it at him. Make your mouth hard, I won't kill you, you bastard. Qin Xi watched the video without missing any detail. This video must have other information besides threats. Other more important information. So, Qin Xi kept watching that video repeatedly without eating or drinking. Finally, after watching it countless times, Qin Xi heard a familiar sound in the video. Red Carp, is it possible to amplify this audio segment here? I'll tune up the audio. After some operation, Qin Xi could hear the familiar male voice completely. Surprisingly, it was him. But how could it be him? Whatever the other party wants, bring Qingluan back first, no matter what. Yes, master. It's almost time. You should go to Gu's house, otherwise Gu Yuebai might be suspicious of you. Qin Xi looked up at the window and realized that she had been watching all night, and it was almost time for her tutoring. I didn't care about so much, so after tidying up myself, I drove to Gu's house. Bang! The violent collision instantly awakened Qin Xi. Because she didn't sleep all night, she almost fell asleep while driving. Moreover, she actually crashed into Gu Yuebai's car. Qin Xi quickly got off the car and went to see the situation of the other person, but collided head-on with Gu Yuebai who had just come down. The other person's gaze is very unpleasant. Miss Qin, what are you doing, or rather, what do you want to do? Qin Xi felt a bit embarrassed when Gu Yuebai said so. Sorry Mr. Gu, I will compensate you for your loss. Millions, are you sure you want to compensate? Gu Yuebai's rhetorical question left Qin Xi speechless. Not to mention whether she can take out a few million, even if she does have it, she cannot compensate like this. Otherwise, it will definitely be suspected by Gu Yuebai. Then Mr. Gu will have to admit that he's unlucky. It's time for me to go to work, so I'll leave first. As Qin Xi was about to leave his mess and go find Gu Tian, he was grabbed by Gu Yuebai's coat. I forgot to tell you that Tian is not at home every Monday, so you don't have to come over on Mondays in the future. Mr. Gu, is it really okay for you to inform us of this matter at the last minute? At this moment, Qin Xi is really speechless towards the man in front of him. However, Gu Yuebai was completely indifferent and only called the insurance number on his own. Then he took the car key from Qin Xi's hand and opened the car door to get in. Reverse, take a detour, and do it all in one go, completely ignoring Qin Xi who was frozen in place. This made Meng Jingxue, who was watching everything at the Gu family, lose her composure. Her fair and slender fingers tightly gripped the railing, increasing their hatred towards her. Qin Xi, I will make you look good. I shouldn't have let you leave that place alive in the beginning. Meng Jingshua's murderous intent in her eyes made her unable to wait any longer. As long as Qin Xi lives one more day in the world, she will have to endure a day of discomfort, which Meng Jingshue cannot bear. If you rob my man, you will have to pay the price. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Underground Black Market. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Underground Black Market. At night, the streets are quiet, with twinkling stars, and there is no longer the hustle and bustle of traffic and crowds during the day. Only a few scattered cars are still speeding on the street. There is a sharp contrast with the bustling city during the day. But inside a magnificent palace, many people wearing masks and gorgeous attire gathered. Everyone was dressed in various evening dresses, sitting upright on chairs, with their eyes fixed on the center of the hall. Quietly waiting for the protagonist of this banquet to appear. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the dominating theater. A rabbit girl sat in the center of the stage with a graceful figure and a microphone in her hand. Then deafening applause erupted. I believe everyone has been waiting for a long time, so let's start this evening's auction. Let's first select the sellers from this auction. The game rules are that the dealer will not be limited to purchasing collectibles tonight. Okay. Watching those people's obsession and madness, Qin Xi appeared much more calm. Laugh a few times, these people are really boring. If it weren't for Red Carp telling her that there is information about Qingluan in this auction, she wouldn't have come to such a place. In the afternoon, Red Carp suddenly visited and requested her to attend the auction. If it weren't for him moving out of Qingluan, she would never have come to participate in this matter. Today's auction has gathered many influential figures from various fields. Fish and dragons are mixed, but there may be information about Qingluan in this auction. So let's start our first collection now, a 1,000-year-old Ganoderma lucidum plant, with a starting price of 100,000 yuan. 110W. 130W. 250W. As the crowd shouted, Qin Xi gradually realized something was wrong. How could a Lingji plant be sold for such a high price? Her intuition told her that this auction was not easy. As expected, when the final price was set at 300W, the host took out a document from another box. Congratulations to Mr. 77 for winning the number 1 item in this auction. The year before last, Lingji was included as a gift. The Gu family's next cooperation opportunity. The opportunity to cooperate with the Gu family. Qin Xi's pupils suddenly contracted, and this auction is actually related to the Gu family. Alternatively, this was originally organized by the Gu family. But why? The Gu family has a big business, why hold such an underground auction? There must be something fishy about it. And just as Qin Xi had not figured out the situation before, the host's next sentence made her secretly say that things were not right. So now, please leave first for the guests who have just got married without raising a sign. Qin Xi watched as the spotlights moved and landed on the people who had just quoted, while those who had not bid were mercilessly invited out. Just as the staff walked to Qin Xi's seat, she had already disappeared without a trace. It seems that the disruptive mice have been cleaned up now. Guests, our carnival has officially begun. This time, the voice no longer belonged to the rabbit girl, but to a very strong male voice. Then various men and women began to take off their masks and wait quietly for the next item. And this so-called second item is actually a very young boy. Everyone present was in an uproar, and everyone cheered. Qin Xi never expected that this underground auction would turn out to be a black market. Master, don't be impulsive. A low female voice fell in Qin Xi's ear. Just now, Qin Xi thought he was going to be kicked out without any success when he suddenly caught a glimpse of the logo from within ATG. That logo is commonly used by the master. Is there anyone organized in this auction? But time was limited, and Qin Xi couldn't think too much. He followed the sign all the way, only to find himself in the hidden corner of this auction. At the same time, there was a familiar figure waiting for her, her senior sister, Qianju. "Senior sister, why are you?" "Shoo, I received news that Qingluan has been kidnapped. According to the intelligence team, it is highly likely to appear at this auction. And Qin Xi never expected to learn about Qingluan in this way. 500W, I'll take this child." This voice, it's him. Qin Xi turned his gaze to the VIP seat. "Is that Gu Yuebai? Why is he here, why is he taking that child away, and what exactly does he want to do?" At this moment, there are too many mysteries. How many hidden secrets are there in this auction? This is the head of the Gu family, Gu Yuebai. He is a person who cannot be provoked. Remember not to confront him head-on. "Senior sister, what will happen to that child after being photographed? If her child hadn't passed away, she should be around this age now." Perhaps for this reason, Qin Xi looked at the child with a look of guilt in his eyes. Don't worry, although Gu Yuebai is ruthless, he is also a well-known kind-hearted person at this auction. These children are all abducted and sold. After falling into the hands of human traffickers, those with slightly better appearance will come to this auction house multiple times. Upon hearing Qianju's words, Qin Xi breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the child doesn't seem to be in life-threatening condition at the moment. And the subsequent collections were basically all kinds of stunning things, and Qin Xi was even more convinced that this was the real black market. "Senior sister, which faction does this underground auction belong to? Since the people of the Gu family know its existence, why not destroy this hell?" But before she could finish speaking, Qianju covered her mouth and gestured for her to be quiet. "Master Gu, today there is another collection that I won't keep for you. Your skill is extraordinary." An old man with a hunched body, wearing a voice transformer and a pale face mask appeared with a cane. "You know what I want." Mr. Gu remained straightforward as always. "For the sake of our loyal customers, let me give you this grand gift." As the words fell, a large screen in a cage slowly descended from above the auction house. Qingluan. Also. Gu Tian. How could it be? Qin Xi looked at the little girl on the big screen incredulously. She was tied up in an abandoned warehouse, and her originally fair skin had several cuts. Gu Yuebai blushed and reached out to pinch the old man's neck. "Who gave you the courage to move my daughter? Can you also touch people from the Gu family?" Gu Yuebai increased his strength, and all the other guests present were also frightened. Gu Tian is the apple of the eye of the Gu family, and the old man of the Gu family dotes on this granddaughter without saying a word. And the person who tied Gu Tian up the previous time has already found no such person. They never expected that Gu Yuebai appeared at this auction to find his daughter. "Senior sister, that child, I want to save her." Qin Xi looked seriously at Qianju, and these words made Qianju incredulous. "Master, that child is from the family, she won't be fine." "But what if I don't know why?" But Qin Xi was very anxious in her heart. She seemed to have a vague premonition. "Gu Tian, it seems that something has happened." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Communication from acquaintances. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Communication from acquaintances. Seeing Qin Xi insisting on this, Qianju sighed helplessly. In the end, she finally breathed a sigh of relief and looked at her with a gloomy expression on her face. "Okay, I will have the Red Carp investigate this matter, but only then, and I will have the organization find ways to protect that child." It seemed that Qianju let go and agreed, and Qin Xi finally breathed a sigh of relief. After all, if it were an organization, Gu Tian's worst-case scenario would only be getting injured. But Qianju has another plan in her heart. Since the disappearance of the old master, there have been many malicious people in ATG. If it weren't for the stability of the situation with Qingluan and Hongli, it's not certain what kind of scenery ATG would be like at this time. I'll cut off the power later, and you can take the opportunity to take Qingluan away. We only have one chance. Qianzhu handed Qin Xi a key, then put on her mask and turned around to leave. Qin Xi's hands are tight, she will never make mistakes. Now everyone's attention is focused on the current head of the Gu family. It's a great opportunity for her to save Qingluan. With a click, the originally brightly lit hall was now pitch black. Without hesitation, Qin Xi ran straight towards Qingluan. In just a few seconds, the cage opened and Qin Xi left the auction house with his person on his back. Senior sister, with your abilities, you will definitely escape unharmed. But Qingluan couldn't wait anymore. The man on his back was breathing weakly, as if he was about to stop breathing at any moment. And now there is something even worse besides that. Just now she seemed to have been injured, whether it was the old monk or Gu Yuebai. She didn't have time to think much. After returning to the ATG headquarters, the alarm rang, and then I felt a darkness in front of me. My limbs were weak and I couldn't help but fall straight down without conscious control. Little girl, you child is always so reckless. Master is that the master in the auction house, the lights quickly returned to normal, and Qianzhu had already quietly disguised herself as a staff member. What is the situation? Okay, how did it trip? Did the surveillance check? I've checked and there's nothing. I've really seen a ghost. I'll patrol every 3 minutes, but I've checked and there's no problem. A few people looked at each other and couldn't figure out how it was done. If you ask me, it's just that I accidentally tripped, otherwise there would really be someone who wouldn't be able to hide. Wouldn't that be too ridiculous? Yeah, let's go, let's go. Today is really abnormal. As the maintenance personnel left, Qianzhu quietly followed a few people and walked out openly. She doesn't know how to be invisible, she just hacked into the surveillance footage. A group of fools. But the accounts between Gu Yuebai and the old man have not been fully settled yet. You are aware of the consequences of opposing the Gu family. If you don't want your son to follow your wife's path, let my daughter go. Gu Yuebai had no expression on his face and a cold tone, but the force of pinching his neck increased a bit. Gu Jia, hehe, the big deal for me is to die. Anyway, I have nothing to worry about. If you want that rebellious son's life, you can take it. The man's mask quietly fell off, and what caught the eye was a middle-aged man's face. But the left half of the face was a 10-centimeter long scar, which was shocking. But as for you, Gu Yuebai, this is the apple of your palm. What other choice do you have besides obediently listening to me? Indeed, Gu Yuebai admits that what he said is true. But he wouldn't show it. He let go of his hand, wiped it with disgust, and his eyes remained cold and thin as ever. Turning around and leaving, he won't continue to waste time. Plus, he just received favorable news for him. Humph, ATG. It's a bit interesting. Gu Yuebai withdrew his hand and took out a small sound collection device from his eardrum. This is what he snatched from ATG. I didn't expect this thing to be used so widely. Half a minute ago, when Gu Yuebai was threatened, Qianzhu told him Gu Tian's address. They had a head-on encounter before, and he had an impression of her voice, or rather, there were not many opponents at her level. On someone's behalf, your daughter abandoned a car factory in the western suburbs of the city. Although this sentence was entrusted to make him suspicious, he still went to find Gu Tian first. Gu Tian's health is not good and due to personality issues, I'm afraid her condition will be very bad. Sweet. When Gu Yuebai arrived at the car factory on the outskirts of the west side of the city, he saw Gu Tian from a long distance under the tree. She was covered in a coat, and the injury on her body appeared to have been treated. And that warehouse, where else is there, only a pile of burnt and pitch-black iron sheets left. The thick smoke had not dissipated yet, and the other party had only recently left. Are you people from ATG again? What exactly do they want to do? Gu Yuebai picked up Gu Tian and left, then turned around to look at the jacket that had been left behind before leaving. Is it him, or? After taking Gu Tian home, she took good care of her for several days before she regained her vitality, but she became even more afraid of strangers. This also includes Meng Jingxue. "You Bai, what's wrong with Tian Tian? Why did she run away when she saw me?" Meng Jingxue seemed to have just cried, with slightly red eyes and tears in her eyes, as if she felt sad about her daughter's fear of her. "Aunt Chen, is there any news from Qin Xi these days?" But Gu Yuebai ignored her and instead asked Qin Xi. In the darkness that day, he heard the sound of footsteps and a unique fragrance that came with him as he passed by. He thought it was a coincidence, but just now he remembered that Qin Xi seemed to have not appeared for a few days. "Mr. Gu, Miss Qin Xi said that her boyfriend had a car accident and she took a few days off to take care of him." Boyfriend. Gu Yuebai remembered seeing her in Shenhua that night again. Nodding, "Tell her to come back as soon as she has time. Sweetheart likes her, maybe she will be helpful to Sweetheart's condition." Meng Jingshue's expression on her face was a bit ugly when she heard that Gu Tian would accept her. "You Bai, I don't think Teacher Qin needs to come over for now. Tian Tian is very afraid of outsiders." The word outsider is extremely heavy, as if trying to express something to him. Seeing that Gu Yuebai was silent, Meng Jingxue continued to speak, "Plus, don't you think this is very strange? She liked her very much when Tian Tian appeared, but because of her appearance, Tian Tian immediately had an accident. This incident." She didn't continue speaking. Gu Yuebai is a smart person, how could he not know what she meant? "Miss Meng, are you doubting me by saying this? It's really like sitting at home with a pot from the sky." Qin Xi suddenly appeared, making Meng Jingshue's teeth itch with anger. "It's really a bad thing. Even though Gu Tian is already like this, Gu Yuebai still believes in her." And the little girl who was originally hiding behind the curtains decisively poked her head out when she heard Qin Xi's voice. Blinking her beautiful big eyes, staring at her. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Gu Tian decisively ran towards Qin Xi from behind the curtains and reached out to embrace him. This scene left several members of the Gu family a bit stunned. 4 people, each with their own thoughts. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Latest Intelligence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Latest Intelligence. Sweet, have you had a good meal lately? Let the teacher hug you. After speaking, Qin Xi picked up Gu Tian and joked, "Didn't Tian Tian eat well and lose weight?" Gu Tian blinked her eyes, stretched out her arms, and hugged Qin Xi's neck as she crawled into her arms. This was something Gu Yuebai had never seen before. Even him, Gu Tian is not so close. Meng Jingxue was even more infuriated by this scene, and her words also carried a hint of sinister meaning. Teacher Qin Xi is really talented. She likes you so much, otherwise you could have been hired by you Bai as an exception. Her words displeased Qin Xi, but she did not argue with her. Her purpose in entering the Gu family was for the sake of her master, and after Qingluan's accident, she realized this even more. Showing off one's sharpness is not a good thing, and now that Gu Yuebai is also here, she still has lingering fear about the auction that night. "I didn't dare to be too flamboyant, but I replied, 'Miss Meng, you're welcome.' However, she has studied as a preschool teacher, and children may prefer a gentle teacher." Gu Yuebai, however, kept scrutinizing her. It was difficult to change the sound of a person's footsteps, and he believed that his hearing was very sensitive. But when Qin Xi walked over, he was completely unaware. Intuition told him that there was a problem with Qin Xi. "Teacher Qin, what do your preschool teacher training institutions usually learn?" This is the personal information forged by Qingluan for her. After all, it would be very suspicious if the tutoring teacher did not receive training. But they are all very basic things. "Do Mr. Gu need me to do a new self-introduction?" Qin Xi smiled beautifully, but in Meng Jingshue's eyes, it looked very dazzling. She absolutely cannot continue to let Qin Xi, this fox seducer, sway in front of Gu Yuebai. So without stopping, he pretended to faint and fell to the ground. Although Qin Xi felt that her acting skills were fake, he couldn't bear to say that she was the future young lady of the Gu family, the mistress of the Gu family. Offending Meng Jingxue is not beneficial for Qin Xi, and Gu Yuebai is no exception. He didn't like Meng Jingxue, just because of her engagement to Fengzi. When he saw her suddenly faint, although there were no ripples in his heart, he still walked over and picked her up, calling for a family doctor. Chen Jinman handed a cup of tea to Qin Xi. "Teacher Qin, I'm really sorry that you came a bit late. We have already used breakfast." But Qin Xi didn't care until he picked up the tea cup and took a sip. She was completely stunned by the smell master. This also further confirms the intelligence that Qin Xi heard 3 days ago. 3 days ago, after carrying the dying Qingluan on his back to the headquarters, Qin Xi fainted from poisoning and woke up late the next night. Wake up leisurely, Qin Xi felt pain all over his body, and his throat seemed to be torn open. The nearby Qianju quickly fed her some warm water and carefully helped her sit up. "You're quite awake. You've been sleeping for the whole 2 days, and your wound is poisonous. Fortunately, Qingluan has recovered well and cut that piece of rotten meat for you, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable." Upon hearing that Qingluan was fine, Qin Xi breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. As long as he was fine, it was not in vain. She almost risked her own life to save him. The child from the Gu family. After receiving my instructions, Red Carp immediately took someone over. "She's very good, don't worry." Before Qin Xi could finish speaking, he was interrupted, and the mentioned Red Carp was running into the room with his phone in hand. "Miss Qianju, the master's phone is ringing, it seems to be from the Gu family's side." At this moment, Qin Xi's thoughts suddenly came to mind, and his memory was not fragmented. Taking the phone, as expected, it was Chen Jinman. "Miss Qin, have you been busy lately? Don't misunderstand, it's not the gentleman's intention, it's just a bit worried about you." "Aunt Chen, I have nothing to do. Don't worry, it's just a friend of mine who had a car accident surgery. I took care of him for a while, and when Mr. Gu asked, could you please help me convey it?" After chatting for a while, Qin Xi hung up the phone and asked about the latest news about Red Carp. "Master, what's going on? The information leaked from the underground auction may be crucial to us, and..." Before she fell into a coma that day, she vaguely seemed to hear the voice of her master. But she didn't say, maybe it was just an illusion. "Forget it, it's nothing." Thinking of this, he shook his head and looked up at the Red Carp. "By the way, when it comes to this matter, I would like to express my gratitude to Sister Qianju. Because she saved the girl from the Gu family, Gu Yubai gave us a very important message. He doesn't know the whereabouts of the old master either. This matter may be related to the Gu family's old man. Although this answer is currently useless for Qin Xi, it is still a useful piece of intelligence. If you look at it this way, she still needs to find a way to get to know the old man from the Gu family, and Gu Yuebai is a great medium. As long as you climb up to him, the intelligence of the master will eventually be known. Aunt Chen, can you sell me some of this tea? It tastes very delicious." Qin Xi calmly began to inquire about the news. She couldn't be impatient, as she couldn't eat hot tofu. Tea is very ordinary tea, but the cup seems to have a lot of origin. It was collected by Mr. Gu when he was young, and I accidentally took it out later. If you like it, you can take it with you. Thank you, Aunt Chen. Then I'm not polite. Is Tiantian's class scheduled for today? If not, let's follow my schedule. Not yet, Miss Tian is responsible for all matters related to Miss Meng. Gu Tian in her arms was very well behaved, and when she heard that Qin Xi would be with her all day today, her face couldn't hide a smile. This may have taken Chen Jinman's attention away. When she first came to the Gu family to see Gu Tian, she was still very young and didn't let anyone hold her, except for Gu Yuebai who couldn't touch her. This also includes her mother, Meng Jingxue. She used to think that Gu Tian was a woman and that she was the one who snatched her father, so she didn't like it. But it wasn't until Qin Xi appeared that Chen Jinman realized his thoughts were completely wrong. After that day, the relationship between Qin Xi and Gu Tian seemed to get closer again, and when they were together, they were like a happy mother and daughter. Gu Yuebai couldn't help but doubt whether he had read it wrong. I looked at their backs with a faint tone. Aunt Chen, do you think Qin Xi's eyebrows and eyes are very familiar? It's like seeing someone before. But the Qin family, a small family, is not a suitable partner for the Gu family. Where have they met before? Gu Yuebai couldn't say for a while and a half. It's getting late, go tidy up a room and come out. Since Tian likes her, let her spend more time with the children. I have something else to do, so don't prepare dinner for me. As the words fell, Gu Yuebai picked up his coat from the sofa and went out. As night fell, he also had something more important to attend to. For example, going to meet that old friend. End of this chapter.